China has maintained a very large growth rate for a number of years. However, in recent times, we have witnessed a slowing down of the growth coming from China, and this has been an effect felt across the world. Capital controls are extremely important here at this time. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to talk about a whole host of issues, beginning with China. I want to show you a couple things. This is quite interesting. We can see that as of, let's say, March to April timeframe, a definite sync has been created between these three: China commodities, China stocks, and the 10-year yield. It's an inverse. And you're looking at this right now being quite identical. Of course, the time frame is short, but it just shows you how things really work together. So is this the beginning of an escalation to that slowdown we have seen? I think it's too early to tell, but should this go any further, we know that it will snowball, it will compound. Now check this out. This article is out of Bloomberg. China's biggest ever foreign acquisition frenzy is ending almost as dramatically as it began. After stunning the world with a record $246 billion of announced outbound takeovers in 2016, Chinese deal makers are now struggling to cope with tighter capital controls, that's key, and increasingly wary counterparts. Now check this out. Cross-border purchases plunged 67% during the 4 months of this year, the biggest drop for a comparable period since the depths of the global financial crisis in 2009. And that is accurate data that they are looking at, and it just seems like we are in the financial crisis part 2. There's no denying that. This is yet another indicator. How many indicators other than the current price of the stock market do we need to go back to the financial crisis levels or worse? But many people don't see it like that. I think it is significant what's happening in China right now, because I believe much of the world is reliant on China doing well. And if they can just maintain a growth rate for a long period of time, that would allow the whole world to just continue. So the US needs to keep doing their thing, China needs to keep doing their thing, and everything is happy. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case, and will never be the case at all times. There will be setbacks. And then I want to segue into this. Canada's dollar and bank bonds declined after Moody's downgraded the nation's banks for the first time in more than 4 years, signaling that soaring household debt, huge in Canada, combined with runaway housing prices, leave the lenders more vulnerable to losses. And I do stress the fact that these two are intertwined, because people are buying homes they cannot afford. They get these massive loans under the understanding that don't worry about it, because housing prices always go up. Let's forget about what happened in the 90s. Let's go back and realize what the truth is. And all of that is really part of a maximizing of the amount of debt that individuals and governments are all a part of. And it just tells you essentially who has been downgraded, all the big banks here in Canada, and they lowered their level, saying that it's negative on all 6 lenders. And this here is essentially just saying that the banks are not safe enough and so on and so forth. You know, if you're going to rate them anywhere in the A category, you're telling a lie. So why even bother? I mean, I think the rating should be something more like that. And anyway, let's just move on for a second here. We're looking at Mario Draghi, and I thought this was really, really interesting. He had a tough meeting, apparently, because they were grilling him, truly grilling him on everything that's happening, the ECB's measures, why printing all of this currency has done nothing, and he fights back and essentially says, look, we are creating millions of jobs because we print money and buy up garbage. I don't see how that works, but anyway. So part of what they did, and this is the reason I mentioned this article, is that they gave him, at this meeting, they gave him a tulip. It was a solar-powered tulip. But essentially, this tulip representing the tulip mania in that hyperinflationary crisis. I think that's really good that you would actually have individuals that would do this. Many would be scared. Many wouldn't want to step on anybody's toes or have this sort of symbolism, especially in the public eye. But here it is. And then we look at the champion. The ECB is the greatest central bank in the world. They now have a bigger balance sheet than the Fed. And you can see that here for yourself. The Bank of Japan in a close third place. And this is just something, you know, Canada really needs to step it up a lot. We need to print. Let's do 100 trillion. Let's just do 100 trillion. We should all chant together. Just get that central bank just riled up and rowdy and print that $100 trillion. Let's see what can happen. Let's get the stock market going. Let's get the Dow Jones at 1 million. Let's get the S&P at 500,000. Let's do it. Let's print up that currency. Sounds right, doesn't it? Saudi Arabia. Now, there has been a little bit of back and forth. I'm really unsure as to what's been happening, but ever since Trump has been in, things have been a little softer, at least on the outside. Saudi Arabia preparing to cement ties with Trump, committing to unprecedented investments in the U.S. Among the sum, $40 billion into U.S. infrastructure. So I do believe that this is important, not just for the amount of money that's being put in, but also the fact that there are ties and bonds that are occurring. And I believe that countries should be talking to all other countries. There should be no restrictions on that. There should be open discussion with every country. If they want to do deals together, that's fine, as long as it doesn't step on any toes, as long as it is not something that is, you know, potentially a problem. And so there's more in the article, but I just wanted to basically mention that the Saudis are investing $40 billion, and I think that this is going to be very favorable for both sides, expanding the whole petrodollar deal and everything else. All right. I guess I shouldn't say that, but I almost couldn't believe this. This is right out of JAMAnetwork.com. And if you can believe this, take a look. Among 222 novel therapeutics approved by the FDA from 2001 to 2010, 32% were affected by a post-market safety event. What are they talking about? Basically, out of these, 2001, 2010, 32% have a problem. Imagine when you have one of the biggest crises in the world right now, the health crises. Just a couple points here. When you have the drugs giving adverse reactions to people and they are unable to survive, many times these do not get reported in the way that they should. Whether it's an adverse reaction, whether it's a death, whatever. It doesn't seem to get reported on the numbers, the statistics, and you see those being skewed big time when they know what the worst of the worst situations could be. However, that it just seems like things don't get reported. The truth isn't really reported. That's what I'm trying to get to. And then you have, of course, you have the individuals working for the FDA, the USDA, the EPA, and it just so happens that these individuals are either past, present, or future employees of biotech companies and all these different chemical manufacturing organizations and everything else. What kind of system have they set up for us? It's unbelievable, truly. CIA director warns of Venezuela weapons transfers. The CIA director, Mike Pompeo, said there's large caches of weapons in Venezuela and a risk of them falling into the wrong hands as the country grapples with economic crisis and street protests. And I think that they should be much more worried at this time about Mexico and what's happening there right on the border. They can't even handle that, and they're worried about Venezuela. I think that they need to worry about what's happening within their own borders, and then they need to know what's happening across the borders as well. Venezuela is a serious situation, but shouldn't really be on the radar for the CIA. Essentially, all they want is a coup. They want to take over. They want the oil. That's very clear, and that potentially is the beginning of this happening, at least publicly. Trump weighs sending as many as 5,000 more troops to Afghanistan. What else is new? When we have the military-industrial complex ruling this, there's no intervention by a president going to happen. I can't believe that. The military-industrial complex rules the show in this regard. And you will see that taking place when you look at all of these different countries which have bombed Libya, Yemen. You'll see this in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria now. You see that expansion of the troops within Africa. I mean, it just gets worse. Where are all these troops coming from? Well, they're spread thin to some degree, but also a lot of them are contract work. And this is something that is potentially dangerous for obvious reasons, but anyway, it just seems like it's something that is expanding. And when they said mission accomplished, the war is over, we knew that for either Iraq or Afghanistan, it would certainly not be over for the foreseeable future. Now, if you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it pushes these videos higher up in the YouTube search rankings, so I do appreciate that very much. Last but not least, if you like this video, you will definitely enjoy my books. The first book is about the historical analysis, then I get into the 4 asset classes. From there, you learn how to profit from them. My new book is about tax incentives, reducing your debt, and becoming self-sufficient. I don't talk necessarily about, what they call off-grid, but I'm trying to develop sort of a mid-ground between that, where you would have these methods of self-sufficiency, but you're not necessarily living in the middle of nowhere. So that's what I propose in the new book. If you're interested in the audiobook of Global Economic Collapse, just go over to my website, themoneygps.com, and you'll see it there. Take care.